And I think that that's terrifying though, right? I mean, right next to telling somebody that, hey, I'm falling apart and things really aren't great at my house. Next to that, really tight second is stopping, because you just think we can't stop. I mean, I've got to do the next math lesson.
I think as homeschool moms, as moms in general, as women in general, we tend to want to isolate during difficult times because we don't want people to know. And it's so hard to be real, right? You see your friends at church or you see them at co-op and, they got a smile on their face and they're like, how are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm so good. How's your week going? And we have this conversation in the back of your mind, I'm totally falling apart. I'm dying right now. But you don't want to show that. You don't want, and maybe you shouldn't go to church, with your head down and, tears running down your face every single week and, let everyone in the whole world know. But there should be some trusted people in your life for sure who you can just be real with and you can just be honest with and just say, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to cope with this. Can you help me? Can you help walk me through this?
Yeah, it's very true. And sometimes you find those friends when you go first.
Yeah.
When you're the first one to say, look, I'm really not okay. I mean, my week was really, frankly, was pretty lousy. I didn't mark anything off my week. And sometimes it takes somebody brave enough and courageous enough to say it was me.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually one of my next points is not marking things off your week. Show yourself grace. I think that's so important is when we're in the midst of a difficult time like this, you've got to show yourself grace and trust the Lord to fill in the gaps for you, especially when it comes to homeschooling, because I think this is where the lie of the enemy gets us the most is that he tells us that we're not good enough. He tells the mom who's dealing with depression or anxiety or anything else related to this, you're not doing a good enough job. You are not capable of homeschooling your kids. They would be better off to go somewhere else and have someone else teach them. And really what he's saying is send them off to have someone else raise them.
Right.
And let me tell you, moms, we serve a faithful God who is going to fill in the gaps. And you are, even in the midst of your difficult time, you are the best one to be there with your kids day in and day out. You need to get help, maybe, probably, but you are still the best one because you love them more than anyone else loves them. And you still, in the midst of your struggles, you still have their best interest in mind more than anyone else. And you know them better than anyone else. And so you are still the perfect person. And this, I'm telling you, the enemy will get us here and he will get us to believe every lie possible that we're not doing it right. John 10:10 says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And Jesus says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. And that's true. Jesus came that you may have life and have it abundantly. And so don't believe the lies of the enemy who's telling you that you're not a good enough homeschool mom. You're not smart enough. You're depressed and you're angry and you're frustrated and all the things, and your kids will be better off with someone else. That's not true. Did you deal with that, Rachael?
Yeah. I mean, I just felt like everything was falling apart. I was falling apart. Our homeschool was falling apart. Surely there's got to be a better way. And Davis is just really wise. And, he's not why he's driven in a different way than I am. And, his big thing was, this isn't a downshift. This is a stop. And that was right. I mean, we needed to stop and do a restart. And not a restart at immediately 0 to 105 seconds. But, we needed to rebuild. And so we stopped and then we built back in. We started with a read aloud and then we started with something else. Yep. And a lot of what we did was we read a lot of aloud and we spent a lot of time outside in the sunshine, which was really good for me and really good for everybody else. And then we rebuilt. And I think that was key. Yeah. And I think that that's terrifying though, right? I mean, right next to telling somebody that, hey, I'm falling apart and things really aren't great at my house. Next to that, really tight second is stopping, because you just think we can't stop. I mean, I've got to do the next math lesson. And it's like, you really need to pause. The math lesson's not going anywhere. Right. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So you really do. I mean, and that's the grace you're talking about. And I think we like the idea of this enormous amount of grace on the cross of Calvary. I mean, cover my sin, please. I mean, it's amazing to me that, abundant grace. But you talk about living in grace. I don't want to have to need a whole bunch. I just want to, but we're talking about moments where you need an abundance of grace, and he's big enough for that. And that means that sometimes you stop the presses and you pull back and you circle up before you go forward again.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.